All right, so moving on from the somber stuff, we're gonna get into something fun. We're gonna talk about some geography now. The bird's gonna play with his toy and make a bunch of noise. We're gonna ignore that and continue to talk about this. So I figured I would do these 2 Geography Now videos back to back, because I feel like they sort of have to be done together. You know, he hasn't played with his toy all that much today while I was streaming, so I can't even be mad at him. So what I wanted to do was Geography Now, the Congo, and the Congo. We got the Democratic Republic and just the Congo Republic. And honestly, I don't understand the distinction entirely. What little understanding I have of the Congo, I studied the Congo Free State when it was under Leopold II, when it was a slave colony where they were just enslaving the people and pulling out the rubber from the trees, because like that's what you do when the automobile industry is coming into existence, and you need a lot of rubber. And Leopold made bank off of that, and then eventually it took his colony away, and it became the Democratic Republic of the Congo. At least I believe it was the Democratic Republic of the Congo, not the Congo Republic. But outside of that brief bit of colonial history, I don't know too much about the two, and I don't know why there's a distinction between them. I don't know why there's 2 separate places. So there's a lot of room to learn today. So we're gonna do that. Let's get it started.
Okay, let's take a poll. Who here is old enough to remember when this country was named Zaire? Yeah? All right, 90s kids. Ah, yeah! I feel so old.
So I was born in the 90s. I wouldn't be considered a 90s kid. I was born in 96. I think you have to at least be like a kid. Like I was a freaking toddler in the 90s. So I guess I'm more of a 2000s kid. I believe I'm considered either the last of the millennials, or I think that was it. 96. Is that last of the millennials? I don't even know.
It's time to learn geography
now! Hey everybody, we've reached our first set of twin countries, the Congos, and you're in for a real treat because these 2 African states may seem very similar, but there's a strange story that kind of sets them apart.
That's why we're doing them together. Dude. So, thoughts on the flag. First of all, give me your thoughts. But I really love this flag. But I think I might be a little biased because it's sort of like it sticks out like a sore thumb among the other flags of the region, because so many of the flags have the Pan-African colors. Well, you have the red, the green, and the yellow. The fact that this incorporated like a very bold blue makes it stand out among the other flags, so maybe that's why I like it so much. It's just different for where it's from, I guess. And I guess sticking out and having the boldness to stand out does give you some points.
Sky blue.
Man, I'm sweaty. I'm sorry.
Voice side and cut diagonally by a red stripe with a thin yellow frame. The star symbolizes the radiant future of the country. The blue represents peace, the yellow frame for the wealth, and the red stands for...
Oh, has he done that before? Because that, I'm pretty sure that is very new.
The wealth. Look, I'm just gonna say, it's interesting that they have a radiant future with peace and wealth because, yeah, let's just move along. Now, whether you're reading some Michael Crichton or some Tintin comics, the Congo has been romanticized and embellished in the pages of classical literature for centuries. Whenever you hear somebody referring to the Congo, they're most likely referring to the DRC. Congo on Google Earth, it just defaults to the DRC.
Fireworks. I'm gonna close my window now. That might end up being disruptive, I apologize.
referring to
It wasn't a gunshot, I assure you.
Congo on Google Maps and Google Earth, it just defaults to the DRC.
Hey, don't I, get a say in this?
No. No, you don't. The DRC is a large country located in the Central African area, bordered by 9 other countries, and is the second largest country in Africa after Algeria, and the largest in sub-Saharan Africa. The country has 10 provinces, and the city province of Kinshasa, even though the constitution mandates that there are like 26 provinces, but they haven't really gotten around to that. Capital Kinshasa is right across the mighty Congo River from Brazzaville, the capital of the Republic of Congo, making the two cities the world's closest capitals. Kinshasa is a huge city with millions of people and a weird 25-foot tall statue of the former leader Kabila that was constructed by North Koreans and has a suspiciously Kim Jong-il type of body. Side note, North Korea has a weird industry of manufacturing.
Oh yeah, it does. A little bit. There is something very similar. I don't know about the. It looks like the one on the left, like the tummy comes out big time, but I do see some similarities in how it's laid out. I wouldn't be surprised if they use like the same leg mold.
Kim Jong-il type of body. Side note, North Korea has a weird industry of manufacturing and exporting dictator statues. Unfortunately, there are no bridges that connect the two cities, so in order to cross, you will either have to take a ferry, which can be incredibly crowded and sketchy. Some tourists that visit Brazzaville go so far as to charter flights that go to Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, and then to Kinshasa to avoid the hassle, even though the distance is literally less than 7 kilometers or 4 miles apart. When you look at the DRC's borders, you'll notice that the further west you go, the land kind of funnels into this incredibly narrow panhandle known as the Congo province. This area—
Oh, that helps.
This incredibly narrow panhandle known as the Congo.
So it looks like they're touching the ocean. Good for them. They got a little. They're not landlocked. Nobody wants to be landlocked. I'd assume that's the only reason that exists, because otherwise that doesn't make any sense.
Province. This area just barely touches the Atlantic Ocean, with a 32-kilometer wide coast and the town of Muanda that extends all the way to the seaport of Banana. That's right, they named the seaport Banana.
Banana.
Don't let Banana fool you. Most cargo ships and freight vessels do not stop over here, and in order to receive bulk shipments, all cargo must travel up the Congo River to the ports on either Boma or Mitadi. Mitadi being the bigger one, since they have a direct train line and highway that goes straight to Kinshasa. These two small ports are the main lifeline of the DRC's international trade sector. Speaking of which, only about 2% of the roads are paved, and due to the terrain of the Congo Basin, building roads and railways has always been a little difficult. Water transport has always been the dominant means of moving around, as nearly 2/3 of the entire country is navigable by rivers and creeks. In the south of the Katanga province, you have the Congo Pedicle, or the Katanga Boot, another narrow corridor that protrudes into Zambia, almost cutting it in half. The reason why this happened all had to do with the Belgian King Leopold II and the Berlin—
Oh god. Oh god, we have to talk about him. Leopold II is a monster. So Belgium did not own the Congo Free State, which was what it was called at the time. Leopold owned it. That guy, he carried some sway to make that happen.
Basically, he claimed the borders to ride along the Luapula River and the watershed between the Zambezi and Congo to be the southernmost borders of the country. But the whole thing was still a little hazy and unclear, so he invited the King of Italy to draw a straight line and then end it all, which the Africans had absolutely no consultation in. In fact, the reason why the country's domain is so big is mostly because King Leopold somehow ended up convincing the summit to allot him the entire area, widely unexplored, and in return, making it a free state with open trade policies and no direct sovereign allegiance, but rather as his own personally controlled state. Basically, the entire country became his own twisted, messed up African playground. And that's where things got really messy. We'll talk—
Oh, what did King Leopold do? Oh god. Like I talked about it a little bit at the beginning, but he got the colony for himself, and a bunch of the other countries thought of him, thought he was going to be like this great civilizer. He would come in and civilize the Congo Free State. Instead, he enslaved people and had them, like, under threat of, like, serious violence, retrieve rubber from it, because there's a lot of natural rubber in the Congo region, because it's to fuel the vehicle industry, because, you know, rubber becomes a lot more important when everybody needs tires. So he's making bank off of that, and when people didn't bring enough rubber, they got the hand chopped off. You chop off your hand, or they'll, like, hurt your family or something. It was incredibly violent, incredibly evil. I believe the Belgians even, in the recent I don't even know how recent it is. This isn't even that recent anymore. Time is flying, but in the grand scheme of things, not too long ago, the Belgians, I believe, even took down statues of King Leopold because he's so incredibly messed up. He's definitely their shame. I think all powerful countries have a leader that they're not proud of. I would say Leopold, he wins that battle real quick with the Belgians. Who would it be for the United States? We got a handful. I don't want to throw out too many names and start a debate right now, but let's start with it. Let's do an old one, Andrew Jackson. We still have him on the money though, so I guess we're not proud of him.
About in the demographics, but first we have to discuss the... Now, the one thing you have to understand is that the DRC is one of, if not probably the world's most resource-rich yet economically untapped and mismanaged country.
We get to talk about the natural rubber.
So much is not being done. First of all, the country is generally divided into 5 physical regions: the Western region, the Congo Basin, the Kivu region, the Kasai, and the Katanga. The Western region is lush with deep vegetation and cropland. Most Congolese are subsistence farmers that survive off of what they can grow in the soil-rich area over here. Fishing is huge out here too. Fish is the most popular source of protein for the average person in this area, since the Congo River provides a variety of tropical species that are cooked in dishes, like one of the most favorite dishes in the area, makobe, which is wrapped in cassava or banana leaf and roasted with spices. Oh no, I think I may have incited something. I think I'm gonna go out for some Thai for lunch.
Thai? Oh, that is so 2009 basic. I prefer this fufu and maboke place. You probably never heard of it. It's around this tool shed behind an alley. You have to climb through the dumpster to get into the restaurant.
The Congo Basin is where you will find the world's second largest rainforest after
That's extra
Amazon,
hipster
the Congo
right there.
rainforest. This place is loaded and heavily packed with incredibly large amounts of plants and wildlife, including some of the rarest primates on Earth like bonobos and the lowland gorillas. Many species are endemic to the area, like the curiously looking okapi. This is also the area that has the largest species are endemic to the area, like the curiously
That's not a zebra. Oh shoot, what up?
looking okapi. This is also the area that has the largest amount of rain in the entire country, with an average of over 120.
James Buchanan, Woodrow Wilson,
having the highest frequency of thunderstorms out of any other country on
Warren G. Harding. Yeah, you're doing all right.
The lake and volcano region, as it sits on many of the major lakes like Lake Kivu and Tanganyika, and 2 of the most active volcanoes in Africa, Mount Nyiragongo and Mount Nyamuragira, which make up about 40% of all documented African volcanic activity alone. Mount Nyiragongo alone has the world's largest lava lake nestled inside of the crater. Yeah, that is not a lake you want to jump in. It's also home to the tallest mountain in the country, Mount Stanley, that straddles the border with Uganda, and the 3rd highest peak in Africa after Kilimanjaro and Kenya. Then we reach the Kasai and Katanga regions. These areas are slightly drier yet still humid and lush with plants and rivers. However, they are most widely known for being the mining and mineral extracting regions of the country. Kasai known for their diamonds and Katanga known for their metals. Now let me just illustrate how much potential is found in the DRC. It's estimated that the entire country holds about $25 trillion worth of untapped minerals and ores. That's about the same amount as the GDP of the US and Europe combined. No joke. The DRC has the world's largest deposit of coltan, or a natural ore of niobium and tantalum, and over 60% of the entire world's cobalt stock. The country is very slow and cautious on how it goes about extracting these resources. In the past, there have been huge problems with both domestic and international looting from agents on both sides. To this day, the industry, although still booming, is relatively underdeveloped compared to what it could be. In a weird counteractive way, though, it also is kind of good because it kind of preserves the forest and wildlife, which is already threatened enough as it is. Overall, if you look at the satellite images of the country, you can tell that there's a ton of green. The country may have over 70 million people, but overall, there's still a lot of land that hasn't even been exploited or destroyed yet. It isn't necessarily because the people are very environmentally conscious, though. It kind of has to do with administration, or lack thereof. Explain in... Alright, fun little quick side note. People typically distinguish if they are from the DRC or the RC by using the capitals in the titles, by saying they are either from Congo Kinshasa for the DRC and Congo Brazza for the RC. Now you know. So in general, the DRC is a huge country with lots of different types of people groups. Let's just jump into it. The country has about 80 million people and is the 4th most populous country in Africa and one of the fastest growing. Now when it comes to ethnic distinction, the line is a little hazy because there are over 250 tribes and people groups. However, in general, about 80% of the country is made up of Bantu peoples. These all classify under the Bantu parent group, and the largest ones being the Mongo, the Luba, the Mangbetu Azande, and the Bakongo. The rest are non-Bantu groups like the Gilima, Mono, Adamawa, and so on. There's also a small percentage of pygmies that make up about 1% of the population, and barely 1% are whites, mostly Belgian and French Europeans. With all these
so some Belgians stuck around. Wonder how that worked out.
dialects, you would think that communication would be difficult. However, fortunately, almost everybody in the country speaks French as an intercessory language, making the DRC the largest francophone nation in the world, even more than France itself. Yes, I know the Belgians took over, and yes, they did try to initially institute both Dutch and French as national languages, but it was a lost cause and French just kind of took over.
Why won't
I mean, French would be a more useful language, like internationally, just as a country, to like, you just be able to communicate with more people overall more effectively with it being French. It's, sucks, man. Just French is the dominant language in that sense.
Anybody learn Dutch?
Because every time we try to speak Dutch to you, you respond back in English. In addition, the DRC has 4 other official languages: Lingala, Swahili, Chiluba, and Kikongo. These languages are spoken in distinct regions. Lingala, the most commonly spoken language, can be found in the capital, Kinshasa, as well as pretty much all of the areas that flow along the Congo River to the north and northeast. Kikongo is spoken in the west all the way through the panhandle that goes to the coast. Chiluba is spoken mostly in the middle regions of the country, and Swahili is spoken all along the east and southeast parts of the country.
That's pretty complex.
The DRC is pretty underdeveloped and economically disadvantaged. Typically, the country ranks within the bottom 10 countries with the lowest GDP index scores. Only a little over 10% of the country even has access to electricity and running water. On top of that, the country is scattered with thousands of small tribal villages not even documented or even charted on maps. See how many you can find on Google Earth. Make it into a game.
Yes! 3 degrees latitude, 24 degrees longitude.
Also, the DRC was a huge provider.
Slow slap.
24 degrees longitude.
Also, was a huge provider of slaves that were
Okay, that was kind of funny.
during the Atlantic and Arab slave trade years. It's highly contested that many modern dances and music styles across the world can be stemmed from this very region, since the slaves incorporated their traditional styles while performing. Calypso, jazz, reggae, rumba, merengue, and so many more all have roots possibly from Africa. Many speculate from the Congo area as well. Now we have to get a little controversial. Now, I'm not going to give you the whole story. I'll let John Green do that in this video right here. He does a great job. By the way, John, if you're ever free, let's hang out sometime. Waffles are on me. In a nutshell, things got pretty messed up, and the exact numbers are hard to calculate, but it's speculated that during the reign of terror of King Leopold, about half of the entire country's population of 20 million were killed. Furthermore, almost immediately after independence, things got messed up.
The dog is attacking my door. I'm sorry about the noise. I promise you, I took her out not even that long ago. I think she wants to come in. Can't let you in, the bird's out.
Again, and regimes fought, and Mobutu took over and renamed the country Zaire. Then when he died, more craziness ensued.
You're sabotaging me.
Erupted, sometimes referred to as the African World War, sucking in every neighbor nation around them, and nearly 5.5 million people died, making it the most deadly conflict after World War II.
Wow, really? My textbook doesn't say anything about that.
That's because your school, like many others in the Western world, does not care about Africa, and it should! On top of that,
That's very true.
both the Kasai and Katanga areas had a short...
So I've been going to school for a long time. A very, very, very long time. How long has it been since I graduated from high school? I'm almost done with my master's degree. We'll say that. I've taken one class specifically on Africa. I'll say I did another one on Atlantic history. And I'll say that's so like 1 1/3 classes on Africa out of all my years. So I think that says something, and not for lack of options. Not for what am I saying? I didn't have a lot of options is what I meant to say. The opposite of what I actually said. I only had a handful of options. And I only ended up in 1 1/3 African history classes.
Secessionalist movement, and for a brief 3 years, Katanga even became a breakaway state back in the 60s. Then another group attempted in 2013 called My Bakata Bakata.
My.
Seriously, it would have been better if you guys just named yourselves But no, you had to go with Bakata. Putting all this into perspective, you can probably see why the DRC hosts the world's largest UN peacekeeping missions. Speaking of diplomacy, now, you might think
this is fun.
These relations are pretty complex, but if you look at the big picture, it all kind of makes sense. First of all,
so my guess here, I like to guess. When places are colonized by another place, despite the fact that there should be bad blood, sometimes they end up actually being pretty close. So I'm assuming they're actually still pretty close to Well, they weren't colonized. They were colonized by Leopold. Never mind, they weren't colonized by a country. They were colonized by man. But the colonizer ends up being friendly pretty often. So I'd imagine if we're talking about any sort of French-speaking European country, I'd imagine they're probably going to be pretty close.
It's no surprise, but the DRC does get along with pretty much most francophone countries. Even though the Belgians
There we
have a
go.
sour taste, they did kind of help unite the DRC with half of the entire
Hell yeah.
linguistic coherence. When it comes to Rwanda, it all kind of went down like this.
Oh, come here, Rwanda. I'll totally help you out with the crisis.
Rwanda
Oh, man.
used the eastern side of the DRC for refugee camps during the Rwandan genocide, but also as a militia base for insurgent forces that would eventually invade the country. When it comes to Belgium, it's a little weird because yes, they generally don't favor them, but they still have privileged relationship statuses with them as well, with embassies in each country and regular flights between Kinshasa and Brussels. Of course, because of all the minerals, major world powers have been jumping on the Congo for decades. China, Russia, and the US have all given their shot at coaxing the
It's got so many resources, so like, yeah.
Our good friends to the west and Kenya and Africa's favorite uncle Tanzania.
I'm not Cameroon.
To the east, but when it comes to their best friends, they would probably have to go back to their twin and say the Republic of Congo. The two Congos are really the best friends and identify with each other closer than any other country in the world. There is a reason why they never decided to become one single Congo country, though, and that will be discussed in the next episode. In conclusion, the Congolese will tell you.
Well, we're gonna do that like right now.
Country on the earth. There's so much potential, but until things get straightened out, we'll just have to see what happens. Stay tuned.
Yep, here we go. Still tuned.
Republic of Congo, also known as the DRC's smaller.
Like his quality changes with every video. Like it sometimes goes down and then it goes back up. I think the audio got better in this one.
Richer, yet kind of angsty twin brother who totally had a thing for Russia.
I'm not sure actually. It's just different. Maybe it's not better, but it's different.
Now! Hey everyone, I'm your host Barbie. Today we reached the second part of our twin country saga. In the last episode we talked about the massive Democratic Republic of Congo. Now let's head across the river and see what's on the other side, shall we? First off, the flag uses the Pan-Africanist movement colors and is the only one that utilizes a diagonal pattern. It's pretty simple, just a yellow diagonal band from the bottom left to the upper right, dividing two
Kinda
triangles,
basic.
the upper one being green and the lower one being red. The green symbolizes the agriculture and forests, the yellow represents the friendship and nobility of the people, and the red
Let me guess. No, just
stands for...
yeah.
Gotcha. The constitutional description actually leaves the red part unexplained, and there is no official description. So that's that. Now let's dig in and see what else we
But
can.
you could only imagine what most people
The
would.
Congos are close and
Oh,
similar. They
never
have
mind.
a lot of backstory that separates them. Think of it this way. They both grew up in the same house, but went to different colleges and have different jobs. The DRC was like, psh, I have all the resources, I could just do whatever I want. But then whatever he wanted ended up in a continental war. Whereas the RC was like, psh, capitalism is the poison of society and I'm totally mobilizing the state-run proletariat, which ended up in capitalism anyway, kind of. Anyway, the country is located in the central western part of sub-Saharan Africa, straddling the equator with a small coast on the Atlantic, with the inland areas sloping diagonally northeast along the Congo and Ubangi rivers. Bordered by 5 other countries, you would think it's 4, but remember, just like we discussed before, there's that little small Cabinda exclave that belongs to Angola. The country is divided into 12 departments, and the capital, Brazzaville,
We have talked
a
about
really
that.
charming yet controversial Italian guy, is located right across its twins capital, Kinshasa, on the Congo River, and is recognized by its iconic landmark, Nabemba Tower, the tallest building in the country. You can literally see it from the other side of the river. Fun side note, if you look closely,
that's
the
fun.
country's shape kind of resembles that of a demonic rabbit with 3 tails and a deformed back foot. Look, I tried my best. Now, unlike the DRC, the RC has a decently constructed coastal harbor at Pointe Noire, the second largest city. The problem is, unlike the DRC, the coast doesn't really have any rivers that assist major cargo transport, except for the Kuili River that doesn't really end up going anywhere important. So most shipments that arrive on the coast have to be transported either by truck or train to the other parts of the country. Speaking of which, the most important railway in the country, the Congo Ocean Railway, built in the 30s, connects Pointe Noire with both Brazzaville and Mbinda along the border of Gabon. This train operates both freight and passenger cars that have helped the country develop exponentially in the past century. It's okay though, because the DRC totally lets them use their coastal entrance on the Congo River for imports to Brazzaville.
Oh, they're
It's
friendos.
like,
We're brothers,
I'm so happy.
and we're singing, and we're colored.
unlike the DRC,
Oh my god, that's a great reference.
urbanized. About 80% of the entire population only lives in a few major cities and towns along the train tracks, whereas the rest of the country is kind of sparse and empty. The entire Likuala department has no road access to the rest
Hi,
of the
Spanish
country,
Wolf.
and the only way to get in is to either go by river or by airplane. You know, you're actually better off just going to the Central African Republic, flying there, and then taking a boat down the Ubangi River instead of going through the jungles. The country has 2 international airports, one in Brazzaville and the other in Pointe Noire, as well as various unpaved landing strips for the remote communities communities outside of urban centers. As a former French colony, the RC has historically acted as a central hub for the Atlantic slave trade in the French division. With its useful harbor and convenient access to the inland regions, this country served as a strategically advantageous territory to both the inhabitants and the outsiders. Things got a little crazy.
That's unfortunate.
Let's talk about that now in... The physical makeup of the RC is kind
You know, I know this is going back to the DRC. I'd imagine the RC also has like rubber plants. I didn't know for most of my life that rubber came from a plant. And that was there's something very satisfying about watching somebody like harvest rubber. Like they cut open the plant and they like drain it like it's a liquid out of it, and it's amazing. I highly recommend.
of like Mozart's Requiem.
Like
It starts
watching
off
some
great
video
and
of
cool,
that.
But then the further you go, it just kind of stops and you have to kind of guess what the last part is. Oh, sorry, I forgot. Kids kind of watch this show. It's like the Lemony Snicket books and trying to figure out the story behind Beatrice. In a nutshell, as an equatorial country, the climate is typically warm and humid year-round. There are 2 rainy seasons, one taking place from March to May and the other from September to November, while June and August is typically the driest season. First of all, the country is generally flat along the coast and inland, with the higher points being in the central and conveniently named Plateau Department, with rolling hills and tame cliffs. Way up north, close to Gabon, you can find the highest mountain, Mount Nabemba, in the Mayumbe mountain chain. This whole area kind of acts as like a natural barrier to the lush jungle interior. Once you go past the plateau, there's no turning back. You've pretty much reached guerrilla territory. One of the reasons why the north and eastern regions of the country are so empty and sparse is partially because it's really hard to build settlements there. The ground is incredibly moist and swampy with few promising spots for construction. Most of the Likuala department remains unexplored today and is home to some of the densest concentrations of wildlife in all of Africa, especially around Lake Tele. This place has a creepy backstory. It's incredibly difficult to get to this eerily circular-shaped lake, and the tribal locals in the area will swear upon the stories of the Mokele Mbambe living there. Mokele Mbambe is described to be a massive reptilian creature with a long neck and tail somewhat resembling an apatosaurus. Basically, it's the African Loch Ness monster. Although it's never been photographed or documented, an explorer came across
They never are.
pygmies in 1959 claiming to have killed and eaten one. Yeah, these jungles are crazy, and just wait till we get to
No, it's clearly aliens. It's obviously aliens. Like, why would it be so circular? It's clearly aliens. But the aliens were sent by the dragons.
pygmies in 1959 claiming to have killed and eaten.
They were the ones who created everything from the beginning.
To Papua New Guinea. Otherwise, primates make up a huge portion of the wildlife. Over 100,000 lowland gorillas are said to have inhabited the entire area, specifically in the Sangha department. The country is located with rivers and confluences like the beautiful Lufu-Lakari Falls that branch out in every direction. If you look closely at a satellite image, you will notice though that a lot of the land has been deforested, especially in the south and central areas. For a long time, the country was dependent on its lumber industry as its main export, but after the oil boom, logging actually has been relatively lowered, and you can see the green vegetation claiming its domain adjacent to the tributaries and reservoirs that feed through the flat plains. Yeah, speaking of which, the country has seen a huge oil boom in the past few recent decades. In fact, at over 80%, oil and petroleum make up the majority of the country's export sector, especially with offshore reserves discovered shortly after independence. In fact, even though the RC is about 14 times smaller than the DRC, they have about 3 billion more in public revenue. Unlike their twin brother, agriculture doesn't play that much of a major role in the economy. Yes, most people live off of subsistence farming, but a larger portion of the country thrives off of industry and service jobs. The RC's GDP per capita is about 8 times higher than that of the DRC, and their overall international GDP index is about 60 spots higher. In short, they're a little more financially stable. Unfortunately, managing business can still be a challenge sometimes. Let's talk about the ones who run this country.
Yeah, government. Let's do it.
Now, don't be fooled.
Oh, demographics, sorry.
RC speak French and Lingala and enjoy the same music and cinema, and they have relatively the same diets and traditions, but hundreds of years of outside influence has forged a distinct dichotomy between the Republic of Congo and its brothers. First of all,
finally we're
the country
getting
is
to
about
it.
5 million people and is one of the most urbanized countries in Africa. The country is almost completely made up of Bantu peoples, which are divided into sub-tribal groups, the largest ones being the Congo peoples at around 48%, the Sangha people at around 20%, and the Teke at 17%, and the Mbochi at 12%.
How many are
2% of
Dutch?
the country is indigenous Pygmy, however exact estimates are a little hazy, and the remainder of the country is mostly white French or Europeans with small communities of other groups like East Asians and Middle Easterners. Now,
Any
yes, about
Belgians?
60 different languages and dialects are spoken in the country, however, getting by is easy.
How about some
The main official
French
language that
people?
everybody speaks is French with 2 other official languages, Lingala and Kituba, which is basically
I mean, I guess they're linguistically French.
just an intelligible dialect of the same Kikongo language spoken in the DRC. Culture-wise, the people are mostly descended from the Congo Kingdom, which was split up by the Europeans during colonization. Respect for age is a major theme with customs. Older people get titles like Yaya, which means something like big brother or sister.
Yeah. I know, Bird Mom had a Yaya. I thought that was maybe Yaya spans different cultures. I thought that was a Greek thing. That's interesting to me.
Though they're only 2 months older than you, you gotta refer to them like that. And never call elders by their real name. Even if she's not your real mom, you're supposed to call your friend's mom, mom, or auntie, and the same goes for dads. Never interrupt an elder, but you can use uncles and aunties to intercede for you. Now, one thing that has really shaped the social structure of the country would have to be the path that it took after independence. Now, as you know, the RC was once a French colony, but after independence, the Soviets rushed in as quickly as possible and coerced the country to try out this new little thing called communism. And after an immediate coup that lasted only 3 days, let's align ourselves with
Beards!
follow a scientific socialist ideology influenced by the Soviets. They renamed themselves the People's Republic of Congo, used this flag inspired by the Soviet flag, and mobilized the military. And that's how, like,
Dude, these...
Congo used this flag inspired.
Okay. I see what they're going for, but like, let's be real. The Soviets made, like, the perfect communist flag. And like a million other countries have tried to copy it. This is about as close as they've gotten to make it work, outside of just like having a star in the corner, which is simple and it's not mind-blowing or anything. I'll just say that the Soviets made the perfect commie flag. And that is what it is. You're never gonna top it. I don't know. It's just maybe it's just the mystique of the flag that's carried on, but I think it genuinely is the perfect flag for what it is. I don't know if you can match that with this, like the hammer and hoe they got going on here. It's fine, better than some countries, better than the sickle and machine gun. I don't remember which country that was.
By the Soviet flag and mobilized the military. And that's how, like Angola and Mozambique, the RC became the former
Soviet... Oh, there it is. The hoe and machine gun. There it is.
Partner down south. China, North Korea, North Vietnam, and Cuba stepped in and introduced themselves. Keep in mind, this was before the Sino-Soviet split in the Vietnam War. Cuba even sent in troops to help train the militia, which would one day eventually overthrow the leader for another one, even though the country has a holiday named after that leader that they assassinated. Eventually, this led to a weird 3 decades of political repression and economic tension that ended with the expiration of the Friendship Pact in 1991 after the fall of the Soviet Union. Then things were a little awkward. They were like,
So, I guess we're not like socialist or communist or whatever anymore.
nah, man, I guess not.
So should we like have a democracy or something or stuff?
Sure, yeah, man, why not? But then this guy was like, nope, and started a civil war. To this day, the country operates under a one-party democratic system that pretty much puts Sasu, who originally ruled under the Soviet Pact, in power indefinitely. This, of course, has caused a lot of conflict and protest, which still lingers to this day. So, as you can see, the country has a weird historical and politically driven social construct infused with French foregrounds, yet a communist undertone. Weird, right? This is just one of the reasons why the RC and DRC, although really close culturally, have never really decided to become one country. Although the thought has been entertained, the political atmosphere and domestic conflicts of each nation have kind of inadvertently hindered them from really moving forward with a union plan. It's also partially why a bridge has still yet to be built between the two, out of fears that any future political uprisings would probably end in destroying it. Nonetheless, as crazy as things got, they still know how to reach out to the Western world and to other countries, some of which we will discuss in...
The friend zone! Yeah, I thought it. I didn't realize we were gonna have more of this.
Mostly distinguished from its
I thought we were about to come to an end without it.
twin brother by the entourage it's built up. As mentioned before, the RC was aligned with the Soviet bloc as well as the other communist-influenced states across the world.
Is it cool with them still?
Australia and South Korea are some of the largest trade partners, though. Stepping up in the 90s,
it is cool.
The RC is one of the largest exporters of oil to South Korea. Of course, the Francophone nations are mostly close as well. The RC will never turn down a party from Gabon or Cameroon. Everybody loves Cameroon. And although they're a little far off, the
apparently
is like, "What's up, cuz?" To which the RC is like, "Yo, you."
Hi, Salt and Pepper. We're kind of getting to the end here. I appreciate you popping in, though. We're just wrapping up our Geography Now stuff. We just did the Congo, the Democratic Republic of the Congo, and we're finishing up the Congo Republic. Or the Republic of... The frick!
You need to stop over more often,
Whatever.
Man. I got these killer dinosaur burgers I want you to try. In terms of their best friends, however, once again, they would probably say the Democratic Republic of Congo. These two brothers have been with each other through thick and thin even before colonialism. They speak the same, they eat the same, they live the same. It's just, one side has a few ideas about social trajectory that differ from the other. In conclusion, the RC may be smaller than its twin brother, but it definitely does not waver in stories to tell, places to see, and legends to explore. Stay tuned, Costa Rica is coming up.
Oh, shoot, what up? That'll be cool. That's exciting. All right, we're gonna do that next time. Thank you all for showing up tonight. It ran longer than I thought it would. It's past the bird's bedtime. I have to take care of that. I gotta switch his water and do all that stuff, and probably take the dog out again from the sound of it. So I'm gonna head out. I appreciate all of you who have popped in today. It means a lot. It was nice being able to do this after a long week. It's been a good long week.